are consistency proofs associated with consistency of a logical system? It's easy to see that the answer is no, and it pretty trivially follows from the fact that if we build an inconsistent system out of a consistent one, which there are many generic methods for doing, the inconsistent system still has all the statements and expressivity of the original. It's enough to just, for every consistent system with a consistency proof, we add in the contrary of one of the axioms, we immediately have an inconsistent system with the same consistency proof. So this is not actually a type of evidence that's indicative or indicative of consistency. By now, with the death of the Hilbert program and Gödel's incompleteness theorems, this doesn't even matter much anymore, but it would have been a nice, rough way for the logicists to see beforehand that what they're doing is wrong. In fact, we can actually see the peak of the icebergs of the of the incompleteness theorem as well. It's just as simple as this. Basically, I'm going to argue without anything mathematically impressive that consistency proofs are associated with inconsistency more often than with consistency. Sorry, the reason I'm repeating myself and stuff is I'm exhausted, so I'm giving my brain room to catch up. An example, so let's follow the previous logic. We take a consistent system with a consistency statement, this time not a consistency proof. We add in the contrary of the axiom, we now have an inconsistent system with a consistency statement. However, there will not be a similar number of consistency proofs in the two. It will lean strongly toward the side of the inconsistent systems. Why? Well, because of the principle of explosion. Inconsistent systems reduce stateability to provability. So unless a consistency proof is some really special kind of thing that is always provable in consistent systems, which would be, an unlikely thing to hold, then we can already see, well before Gödel's incompleteness theorems, that consistency proofs are associated with inconsistency. This reasoning is, of course, really simple, but it's kind of interesting in terms of interpreting the history of mathematics. There's a narrative in a lot of books on history of mathematics that claim the death of the Hilbert program was the logicist Hilbert program was the death of a epistemological venture that, if it was carried through, actually could have brought grounding to mathematics. And it's not true that consistency proof is a form of evidence of consistency. It's just not more associated with consistency in any way. I'll give one more example of a problem in just a second. By the way, this criticism does not apply to Hilbert's own version of the Hilbert program, which was actually essentially reliant on relative consistency proofs. Proofs that if arithmetic was consistent, other systems were also consistent. And many of the problems only apply to that type of absolute consistency proofs that the Hilbert program was trying to do. But another way of showing the issues is just to point out, okay, consistency proof is only useful in a system that is consistent. I mean, given a setting of classical logic, right? Inconsistent systems, the consistency proofs they prove are completely useless because there's a proof of the opposite. So that actually means if we take our prior assumptions about a system's consistency and we use it to estimate the value of a consistency proof we have furnished, what we find is that the extent to which we can trust the consistency proof is just the same as our prior assumption about the system's consistency because of the way it's a completely bifurcated situation.